after losing that case again, and we were in 2016, so they had tortured me on top of my daily job for 6 years already. They did something I couldn't anticipate they would succeed in, because I had already done it, changed the board once. They corrupted the board members. The board members were right to be corrupted because they were both personally bankrupt, and so they needed money. And that's one thing the entrepreneur should always check. If their board members are in financial difficult condition, they are right to be corrupted by private equity or venture capitalists. So you should be very careful about who you take as board members. So in any case, they corrupted these 2 board members, put me in a minority. But what I didn't envision is that they could also buy the judge, because I went to the judge in Delaware and I said, I have the majority of the stock. I own personally 65% of the company. I'm changing the board representation. But what happened is very interesting. In fact, I discovered it on here a few months later. I was working on some legal issues at home at 8 p.m. and my phone rings. And the person said, "Are you Philippe Buhannic?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well, I cannot tell you my name, but I'm one of the top 10 at TCV." I said, "Why are you calling me?" He said, "Well, I still have kind of a conscience, and I just saw something which is totally unacceptable and I cannot live with it, so I'm calling you to warn you." They just wired a huge amount of Bitcoin to Judge Laster in Delaware. They had corrupted the judge in Delaware. And for what I have discovered since then, it's very common practice. So fundamentally, these guys, because of that, the judge gave them the company, despite me owning personally, plus proxy, I had 70%. But I had 65% of the company, and I was stolen my company that I created. I'm the only employee who didn't get paid for 3 years at the beginning. I invented all the products. I found all the major clients. And despite that, I was able to lose the company because the system in the US, the legal system, is quite corrupt, and especially in Delaware. So based on all that, and I think anybody listening to this segment will understand that everything they've done is totally criminal. I have tried to activate the legal system. I spent $5.5 million on it. I've tried to animate the FBI, Department of Justice, with no effect. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They buy the judges, they buy the clerks, they buy everybody, and they don't do it directly. They use proxies like the shitty law firm Morgan Lewis and Will Gotchell, who are totally corrupt to the core. Well, you can understand Morgan Lewis is a law firm of Putin in the US, so it's not surprising, but it's just unbelievable. So that's what a bad private equity and venture capitalist firm can do. If their business model is racketeering, they will racket you. And obviously, since I left, the company has dwindled dramatically and has lost a lot of its market share, has lost all his cash. From a $75 million in cash, they are now badly in debt. Why? Because the board members have been stealing outright companies, like paying the employees of their restaurant on the payroll of their personal restaurant. The company doesn't have a restaurant, and so on and so forth. So it's a very high level of corruption, and I've been unable to leverage the legal system in the US to have it corrected. I tried every court and even the federal court. Even worse, they also use our competitor, our worst competitor was Bloomberg. I was the largest client of Bloomberg when I was at Credit Suisse. And I became instantaneously their biggest competitor. And so they are terrified of me because I really did create them issues. And so they contacted Bloomberg, and Bloomberg was too happy to comply and to use this news network to say bad things about me, like they did on Glassdoor through interns. And they put a story out there like I had beaten an employee. It's funny, there is no doctor's proof, there is nothing. And when the young journalist at Bloomberg did it, one of my friends with the top journalist called her and asked her, I said, everybody knows Philippe, this is totally out of character. Why are you writing that? This is wrong. And she said, yeah, I didn't want to write it. So I said, why did you write it? Because my boss in Chicago told me that if I didn't write it, I was fired. So they manipulated the news in order to have some kind of justification for the judge, who was fundamentally paid with Bitcoin anyway. But the whole thing is criminal. But it doesn't interest the FBI, doesn't interest the Attorney General, doesn't interest the Ministry of Justice, because I'm a stupid foreigner with a French accent. It's pretty damaging. The next segment is about the investors in TCV funds and what they should do in order to change the way they analyze investing into a private equity fund.